In 1927, a small-town Nebraska entrepreneur was staring at a warehouse full of broken glass bottles, spilled syrup, and furious retailers demanding refunds. His most popular product, a fruit drink concentrate, was leaking through its packaging faster than he could ship it. By any normal measure, the business was failing. So he did something almost nobody does when a product is dying. Instead of fixing the bottle, he threw it away completely and reinvented what was inside it. What came out of that decision would end up in more American kitchens than almost any drink in history. And decades later, it would become one of the darkest phrases in the English language. For reasons that had almost nothing to do with the drink itself. Kool-Aid feels like it's always existed. Bright colors, sugary powder, a smiling picture bursting through walls on TV. But Kool-Aid wasn't born from ambition. It was born from a supply chain disaster. Before it was a powder, it was a liquid, and that liquid was slowly bankrupting the man who made it. The story of Kool-Aid is really the story of a failure that got reverse-engineered into one of the most successful pivots in American business history. And buried in that story is a phrase you've probably used yourself, without knowing it actually points to a completely different product than the one you're thinking of. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how a broken bottle became a national institution, and the real truth behind the darkest 6 words ever associated with its name. Edwin Perkins grew up in the tiny town of Henley, Nebraska, working behind the counter of his father's general store. As a boy, he became obsessed with a new product on the shelf, gel. He begged his father to stock it, and he never forgot how a simple powder mixed with water could turn into something families genuinely loved. By his early 30s, Perkins was running a mail-order company out of Hastings, Nebraska, selling over 100 different homemade products, perfumes, medicines, flavorings printed and packaged by hand in his own mother's kitchen. One of those products became his best seller, Fruit Smack, a fruit-flavored liquid concentrate sold in small 4-ounce glass bottles, corked shut and shipped across the country by mail. Customers loved it, but Perkins had a growing problem. Glass bottles are heavy, they're fragile. And when you're shipping thousands of them by rail and post across a country with no interstate highways, a lot of them shatter, or worse, they leak just enough to ruin everything else in the box. Perkins was drowning in customer complaints and damaged inventory, and no matter how he adjusted the packaging, the core problem never went away. Liquid in glass doesn't survive a long journey. Here's what almost nobody knows. Perkins didn't try to make a better bottle. He asked a completely different question: what if there was no liquid at all? In 1927, working in his mother's kitchen, Perkins figured out a way to strip the water out of Fruit Smack entirely, leaving behind only the flavored crystals. He packaged that powder into small paper envelopes he designed and printed himself. He called it Kool-Aid. 6 original flavors launched: grape, orange, cherry, raspberry, lemon lime, and strangely enough, root beer. It should have been a modest fix to a shipping problem. Instead, it solved something bigger than Perkins realized. A 10-cent envelope of powder weighed almost nothing, never broke, never leaked, and made enough drink to fill an entire pitcher. Grocery stores that had refused to stock the fragile glass bottles suddenly wanted the powder by the case. Then the Great Depression hit, and this is where the story gets strange. You'd expect a non-essential product like flavored sugar water to collapse when Americans could barely afford food. The opposite happened. Perkins cut the price from 10 cents to 5 cents a packet, and demand exploded. A nickel could turn plain tap water into something that felt like a treat for an entire family, at a time when almost nothing else affordable felt like a treat. Kool-Aid didn't just survive the Depression, it thrived because of it. By the 1940s, Kool-Aid had become so embedded in American life that it followed soldiers overseas. Lemonade-flavored Kool-Aid mix was packed into World War II ration kits. giving troops a taste of home in the middle of a war. Back home, Perkins' products had grown from a one-man kitchen operation into a factory employing hundreds of workers, producing roughly 500,000 packets a day. In 1953, Perkins sold the company to General Foods, the same company that made Jell-O, the very product that had inspired him as a boy. It was, in a strange way, the childhood dream closing its own loop. Within a year of the sale, General Foods introduced the character that would define Kool-Aid for generations, a smiling glass pitcher. Inspired by an ad director's son, doodling a smiley face on a frosted window. By the 1970s, that pitcher had grown arms, legs, and a 6-foot frame. The Kool-Aid Man, famous for smashing through walls and shouting, "Oh." Yeah, it turned a decades-old powder brand into a pop culture icon, recognized by nearly every American kid. But there's a darker turning point buried in Kool-Aid's history, one the brand never asked for. In November 1978, over 900 members of a religious group in Jonestown, Guyana, died after drinking a cyanide-laced beverage as part of a mass murder-suicide ordered by their leader, Jim Jones. The phrase, "drinking the Kool-Aid," entered the language almost overnight, describing blind, dangerous loyalty to a group or leader. Here's what almost nobody realizes, though. Survivor accounts and Kraft's own statements indicate the drink actually used that day was most likely Flavor Aid. A cheaper competing powder, not Kool-Aid at all. The phrase stuck to Kool-Aid anyway, simply because it was the more recognizable name. A permanent stain on a brand that, by most accounts, wasn't even the product involved. Today, Kool-Aid sits under the Kraft Heinz umbrella, sold in dozens of forms its inventor never imagined. Pre-sweetened powders, squeezable pouches, fizzing tablets, even Kool-Aid-flavored ice cream. It's the official soft drink of the state of Nebraska, and the town of Hastings still throws an annual Kool-Aid Days festival to celebrate the invention that put it on the map. The product that was born from a shipping disaster is now permanently woven into American childhood, American slang, and even American state identity. 3 legacies that have almost nothing to do with each other, all traced back to one broken glass bottle in 1927. So the next time you rip open a packet of Kool-Aid, remember what you're actually holding. A product that only exists because its original version kept shattering in transit. A Depression-era survival product that thrived while everything else collapsed, and a brand name forever linked to a tragedy it likely wasn't even part of. Perkins set out to fix a broken bottle. He ended up rewriting the American language instead. Did you know the Jonestown drink probably wasn't even Kool-Aid? Let me know below.